we wanted to basically have a bit of a chat, maybe a bit of a rant, fueled by a few other things this week. I've had a few angry voice notes off you,
Yeah, I've been on a bit of a warpath, and I'm like, that's not coaching. I don't know how many more times I have to say that to people. That is not coaching.
Because like if someone comes in and say their average protein intake is 90 grams a day, and the science or the literature would say they should be anywhere between 160 to 200 a day based off their weight, good luck adding 100 grams of protein a day from the
Straight from the get-go.
It's not the best will in the world. It ain't going to happen.
Let's just add 20. Everyone wants to eat intuitively. Problem is, people intuitively want to eat pizza every night.
Our most successful clients in terms of sustaining, getting a result, building us, whatever it is, they don't miss those check-ins.
The people who get the best results, they adapt and accept to a repetitive nature.
Oh, I didn't tell you. I've got a confession.
Go on.
8 o'clock in the morning, I'll have fish and a rice cake.
Okay, welcome back. Another episode of
again.
Fish and a Rice Cake.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Jake.
I'm Jake.
He's
Or
Jake.
Dave.
Dave, however you want to refer to him. And listen, I've given up trying to be kind of like good with these intros now. And everyone listening to it will be used to it. But you know what we're about. If you've listened to us this far, you know exactly what we're about.
What is it
so.
we normally say? Is it giving us some non-sciencey, non-ranty fitness advice?
Yeah, something like that.
Actually going to be useful that you can put into action.
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. Do you know what though? So we've just had the Blitz weekend, haven't we? And like the lads put on, who are going to be in later, they put on a bit of a business event last Friday, so a week ago, as of recording this. And I got called Dave all day.
Did you actually?
Because obviously, like all the other coaches that are there at that event, obviously they listen to Mike and Dan's stuff,
Yeah,
and
of
I think
course.
quite a few of them listen to the podcast, which I was quite nicely surprised about.
Yeah.
But obviously, because of that, they all call me Dave. So I'm walking around all day getting called Dave, not replying or responding to anything, just like.
But it works, so doesn't it?
Yeah, it's annoyingly stuck. So.
But I mean, because someone said to me, like, which Jake are you? I was like, Jake. I don't know at all. Or however you want to refer to me.
Yeah. We just get referred to as the Jakes.
Yeah, the Jakes. Jakes. Yeah. But no, it was, we had a business event last week and we had Blitz.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know what Blitz is, why don't you, for a starter? So Blitz is our fat loss photo shoot plan, where we get people into fucking incredible shape through group coaching at a really affordable price.
They did do really well, didn't they?
And they did amazing.
Really
so yeah, if you have a look at our pages, you'll see a couple of the kind of pictures. We've only got the group shots and stuff at the moment, haven't we? Some like behind the scenes footage, but we'll actually have. I would imagine next few weeks we'll probably get the actual pictures back, won't we? So
we should get all the pictures back, and obviously there was Harry and Ben there, weren't they, filming it all? So there's loads of footage from the day, which was really, really good.
Yeah, it was a good day.
It's always a good fun day. Like it's
apart from the fact that I was absolutely hanging from the Friday night.
Yeah.
So basically on the Friday, like I say, Dan and Mike, who were coming on later actually, everyone will know who Dan and Mike is, so I don't need to explain. But they put on a business event, and afterwards they build themselves up to be these beer pong champions, don't they? They even got a trophy and everything. So we go straight from the business event to basically playing beer pong till about, I think it was I got in about 2:30 in the morning. I think you were just before me.
About 1:30.
About 1:30.
Yeah.
So, and then we had to get up at 7:30, 8. You actually had a call.
I had a call at 8:30.
I remember coming down. I was like, "How's he doing?" I was still drunk until about 12 o'clock. And
I was on the phone to Sophie in the morning before because she'd already got up and walked the dog, and I literally was struggling to speak. And I was like, "I'm going to have to neck some water here before this call," which was like an inquiry call for someone, because I was like, I just could not speak at all.
I know it was So we turned up. Obviously, we had the photo shoot, which was class. It's a nice environment to be hungover in, I suppose. Everyone was just taking the piss.
Yeah. I didn't tell you. I've got a confession for that though.
Go on.
You know when we were stood outside the studio waiting for Bailey to get there, and we were sort of a bit like, it's 10 o'clock and he's not here yet, and there's no one else here yet.
Yeah.
We were shitting ourselves a bit. And I was going to message him. I checked my messages because I'd asked him, hadn't I?
Yeah.
About a month before, just confirming the dates. And I looked, and Claire that had sent the message on his account said she'd said, 10 a.m. on the 12th of April, and it was the 13th that we were stood there. And I really started to shit myself. And I was going to mention it straight away, but then I did think, I was like, that would have meant it was a Friday if it was the 12th, which we never do Fridays.
Yeah, Bailey knows we don't do Fridays.
And I was second of all, if it was meant to have been yesterday, he would have rung me, because obviously we wouldn't have been there. So I was like, he hasn't messaged me, so it must have just been so I was kind of gambling on the fact that it was just a typo and she meant the 13th, because like otherwise we would have heard something, because we wouldn't have shown up. So he'd be like, where are you? I'm not gonna lie, I felt sick for about 5 minutes until he got there. I was like, I could have really.
I would have crumbled.
Up.
If you didn't turn up, I would have fucking crumbled.
I was literally so that I don't know what we're gonna do. Like, what the heck? We've got all these tan people stood outside the studio with us that have dieted for 12 weeks. Some of them have come down from Scotland, and I was like, what are we gonna do?
But no. Accommodation and stuff like that, that would have been a disaster.
But the thing is, obviously, we double and triple check those dates so much.
Yeah.
I was like, we can't have got this wrong. It must be a typo, because otherwise I would have heard something yesterday. And thankfully he did. He showed up like literally within a couple of minutes. I was like, thank God.
God, it was a typo.
That could have been bad though.
But yeah, no, it was a good day. Everyone looked great. So if anyone is listening to this who did Blitz, well done. And anyone who wants to get involved in the next one,
there's been quite a few. Right? I've had 4 or 5 people message already wanting to jump on the September one.
Yeah, same. So it's going to be. I think we probably start around usually the start of September, isn't it? I think the last one was the start of September, and that gives us
start of September, 12 weeks till the shoot at the end of November.
The end of November,
and then we have like a bit of a pre-Christmas, almost like social, don't we? After
yes, yeah. So I think so. Again, we had a bit of a social after this one. Obviously, you had to go home, and the lads were too hungover to come out. So I had.
You went for round 2, didn't you?
I had to carry the. I had to go and be the flag bearer for biceps and banter. It wasn't honestly. I was the first couple of drinks. I was putting on a brave face. Then I got into it a little bit. I was like, okay, right. Hair of the dog. I'm kind of past the hangover section, and obviously these guys, because they've had kind of 12, 13 weeks of kind of being fairly restrictive, they were like balls to the wall, like they were going for it. So like Fleur and fucking Lee and stuff, like they were all buying like literally just rounds and rounds of baby Guinness, and I was just like, can't handle this. Like I was just like chinning it. Also, because I was just thinking, and do you know, I don't know if you've ever had this before, but when you get really drunk one night, and then, but I don't know if it's like the dehydration or whatever, but the next day, I really struggle to then get drunk again. I don't know what it is. I just struggle.
Mean, I can't remember the last time I drank 2 days.
Well, I mean, that's another thing. I don't do it anymore. So I was out of practice, that's for certain. But I managed to stay out till about 11:30, and then I was like, right.
That's still not bad going. Like I wasn't overly drunk the night. I was definitely drunker than I've been for a long time. But the embarrassing part was I literally think I had about 3 Guinness and played 2 games of beer pong. So I probably had the equivalent of 1 can of beer and 3 pints of Guinness. And I was steaming. Yeah. I was like, the next morning. I woke up the next morning, walked in the kitchen. You lot had already gone for breakfast. I thought everyone else would be just like half dead. There was just empty wrappers of Ferrero Rochers all over the kitchen counter, just like empty champagne flutes. I was like, I'll clean all this up then whilst we're waiting for everyone.
Yeah, but it was a class weekend. But
but speaking of Blitz, because obviously the guys did so well and it's a short period of time, sort of getting into what we want to chat about, like it requires them to be pretty on it when it comes to the targets that we set them and the consistency. So we wanted to basically have a bit of a chat, maybe a bit of a rant, fueled by a few other things this week about the sort of the common traits of the best clients we have in terms of the level of change that they may be able to achieve.
The way that I phrased it in my head was always sort of thought about, I don't want to just kind of refer to even just dieting here. It's just like the most successful people with not just, when I say dieting, I mean fat loss. So not just nutrition when they're dieting, but just in the whole grand scheme of things, like the most successful people when it comes to building muscle, when it comes to maintaining weight, like the traits are all there right across the board. It's not just
all
fat loss.
The same, aren't they?
Yeah, and like I say, it's been fueled by a couple of things this week, which I won't go into. But yeah, I've had a couple of things.
I've had a few angry voice notes off you.
Yeah, I've been on a bit of a warpath, and I'm like, I just think it's probably a bit of the online kind of the way things work now. And listen, if you follow our content, you'll know that we don't go down these routes, but I just think people expect very quick results with very little work. And yeah, anyway, so we're going to go into it. So to kick things off, I think the first thing I wanted to talk about is the fact that we've spoken about this before, we do an assessment week with all of our clients, right? And something that, the reason we do an assessment week, and I understand it can be frustrating, not frustrating for people, that's the wrong term, but when someone comes to coaching, they're keen to go in like, right, where's my plan? I'm ready to go. And we're like, well, listen, the first thing is we need to do a bit of an assessment with where you're at, because if we don't know where you're at, we can't coach you. And if we just give you generic targets, whether it's macros, whether it's a meal plan, whatever it is, we just give you a generic plan, that's not coaching. You can get that for free online. So the reason that we do an assessment week, just to reiterate this, I know we did a full episode on it, I think. Let's say, to your current eating habits, patterns, to understand where you're at with your training, your current physique, your daily fluctuations on the scales, your general movement levels. It gives us a really broad kind of picture of actually what is going on now, what's going well and what isn't going well. And something that we ask of people in this assessment week is just be brutally honest. Like, we're not there to judge you. That's not what we're doing. We're there to understand actually why are you in the position that you're in. And in the past, I know you've had it in the past as well. Like you'll get someone's assessment week and it's chicken and rice every day and salads, and I'm like, well, that's not got you overweight. Like you've clearly tried to dress this up for me, and like listen, I get it. Like I said, people are keen to get going, but so one of the things this is one of the things that I see with our most successful clients, dieters, or whatever you want to paraphrase it, is when we do the assessment week, one of the reasons we do that is to then get that information and then base our targets around that information. So when you go on a diet, whether you're going to build muscle or whatever your goal is, if you try and change too much at once, you're creating friction. There's too much going on, right? If you change everything all in one go, it's just not going to happen for you. So what we want to do, unless the assessment week is that bad, but I've rarely had those, what we want to do is actually do what you're currently doing, and yes, look for maybe some minor tweaks, maybe a bit more fruit, a bit more veg, like basic stuff. But generally speaking, do the same things that you're doing now, but to these targets that we're going to give you with like proteins, calories. Don't change what you're eating necessarily. Maybe add in a few things, like I say, but just do this and stick and just kind of do what you're doing now with these calories and macros. And people are like, really? I'm like, yes, because that is the smallest amount of change to get some early wins. And if people do that, generally speaking, they start to see results straight away. And so that's the first thing, I think, is people just willing to actually be coached and willing to listen. You can't expect to change everything all at once. And that's the first thing for me, is the people who are open to actually just kind of taking on that advice.
Yeah.
I'm sure you'll agree.
Yeah, 100%. Because like I said, 9 times out of 10 as well, when we have people go through this process, like, again, the more successful clients that we have, they'll really engage with it to a point where before their assessment week's even finished, we'll be getting WhatsApp messages off them basically being like, fucking hell, I didn't realise I was eating so much of this, or I never realised my protein was as low as this, or I already know I need to be drinking more water. Yep. So when it comes to us doing their plan, it can be like, yeah, you've already clocked some of the things that we need to be adjusting, so let's take what you currently... And it might literally be, right, I can see you're eating these 3 meals a day. These are now going to be the targets that we're going to aim for, protein and calories. All I want you to do is adjust this meal by adding this amount of protein in, or maybe take this amount of pasta out of this meal, or swap it for this. Literally, like you said, really small changes to begin with so that they can start actually hitting consistent targets.
Almost to the point where, like, if you were living with your missus or with your partner or, like, whatever, you almost kind of it should be obvious to them, or not even obvious to them, that you've started a diet, do you know? Maybe it's just smaller portion sizes or something like that. Like it should be that minor. And if you can, like I say, if you can be open to that, like it's such a great starting point. And
because otherwise, it's like, how many times when someone sort of, and we get it because you're eager, you're motivated, you just want to get into it. But when you are just like, no, I just want to just send me a food plan. I just want a food plan. Tell me what to eat. Tell me what to do. And it's kind of like, right, well, how many times have you tried that in the past? And how's that gone for you long term? Like, probably not great, because it's probably why we're here in the first place. So that's why we're gonna. Why not try a different approach?
All that stuff's free. It's free. Like that's not coaching. I don't know how many more times I have to say that to people. That is not coaching. That is just a plan. Okay, and maybe then you've got the added accountability that you have to check in. So yeah, okay, there is an element of coaching to it, but in my eyes, that's not coaching.
Yeah,
coaching is adjusting things gradually over time, and then the don't get me wrong, a couple of weeks in, then we might go, okay, so listen, now we've got to grips with this. Now we're going to tweak this. And now we're going to start playing around with these macros. And then you can start thinking, okay, maybe I do need to change these meals a little bit to suit these macros a bit more. But it's gradual, and that's the way it should be.
Yeah, because like if someone comes in and say their average protein intake's 90 grams a day, and the science or the literature would say they should be anywhere between 160 to 200 a day based off their weight, good luck adding 100 grams of protein a day from the
straight from the get-go.
It's not the best will in the world. It ain't going to happen.
Let's just add 20.
That's
20
literally
grams.
I'll be like, right, yeah, let's go up to 120, something like that. Let's have a week at 120, get consistent, and then maybe we go 140, and then you slowly taper it up to where you need to be. And the most successful with clients we have just engage with that process and understand that it is just the minimal amount of change to get the maximum amount of return.
Yeah,
and it compounds over time.
And it, like you say as well, when you go through that initial week, and if you're genuinely honest with yourself, and when I say this, I mean you track everything, like every single calorie that goes through your mouth, you'll be surprised and you'll be shocked, and you should be, right? And I put up a post about this on my Instagram last night. I was like, everyone wants to eat intuitively. Problem is, people intuitively want to eat pizza every night, right? And we don't have an obesity problem because people are tracking the calories. We have an obesity issue because people are intuitively eating too much. And actually, if everybody tracked, say the government came out tomorrow and said everybody's got to track every calorie, and there's like a microchip in you that like every calorie gets tracked and logged, and you can see that data, people stop eating so much.
Yeah.
Like instantly.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guarantee it. And I'm not saying that tracking is forever, by the way, just to clarify
It's
as well.
not, but it's a process.
It's an educational.
It is.
It's a process.
It's the same thing you do with your finances.
Me and you can eat intuitively, but we've done this for 15 years.
Yeah.
We've earned the right to eat intuitively.
Yeah. It's the same thing if you wanted to improve your financial situation, if you wanted to save a bit more money, stop spending as much. If you really wanted to do it, the first thing you'd have to do is know exactly what's going out, what's coming in, and then start tracking what you're spending.
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't be able to just be like,
data,
yeah, I'll kind of make a guesswork and I'll maybe pull back here, and it might work for a bit, but you're never going to have anything solid to actually base it off of and know what's happening. So, and I guess that kind of leads into the check-ins again. We have check-ins every week with clients, and I think that's a buzzword in it that gets thrown around the industry. For us, what a check-in means is we have a week's worth of information on a spreadsheet that our client's been filling in, which is literally just their weight, their daily nutrition targets, if they've been hitting them, if they've been to the gym, how many steps they've got, if they've done any cardio. For the most part, that's it in terms of the numbers. And then they'll also send through physique update pictures, and they'll send through a full video telling us about their week.
Yeah.
Like, so we can get as much information from, and that could be, sometimes it's 5 minutes, sometimes it's 10. I had one the other day, it was like 17 minutes just chatting about the week. And that gives us everything we need. But our most successful clients in terms of sustaining, getting a result, building muscle, whatever it is, they don't miss those check-ins. Yeah. Or if they are going to miss it, they let us know.
And we know that it's coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly that. It's literally that, because at the end of the day, the data is great for us. Like having a spreadsheet to look at everyone's nutrition, the steps, blah, 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 the weights and things, like you can, to a certain extent, get a kind of an idea of what's going on. But then sometimes you might look at the data, and I don't know if you, this is the way I do check-ins. I look at the data first to try and get like an idea of what I think's happening in my head, and then I'll listen to the feedback. And that what allows me to do is then I get the context to the data, and I'm like, okay. And for us, we have to get the context to the data, because if dieting and getting into shape and doing what you need to do, in theory, is very fucking easy. Actually doing it with life stress, family stress, illness, all this kind of stuff, everything that happens on a daily basis, is actually very difficult. So for us, we need to be like, okay, cool, looks like you've had an okay week, but let's get the context. And then they might check in and be like, oh, my little one was poorly, so, these 2 days here, she was at nursery and I had to do this, and I was just all over the place. And you're like, okay, cool. Now we understand a bit more. But yeah, so again, going back to your point, our most successful clients, they check in, they're honest about what's happened. And again, this is something I said to a couple of clients this week. Like, we're not there as coaches to bollock you, to tell you off. Listen, don't get me wrong, like there's a time and a place for that, but it's very rare. I very rarely kind of like have to do that. For me, it's more about saying, okay, well, this happened. Your week didn't go to plan. Let's now work as a team together to find a solution and find, well, next time this happens, we're going to do this instead. And that's what coaching is. But the most successful clients, they commit to that process. And there's absolutely no coincidence that the people who get the best results in terms of aesthetics, in terms of their performance, in terms of what then maintaining these results long term, they commit to that process. Yeah. And I literally sometimes in my feedback with clients that potentially are missing check-ins relatively consistently, and then they are worrying or they're getting annoyed because they're not seeing the results that they want. And they'll point to one of my other clients like Ryan or like a niece that I had in the other week. And they'll be like, oh, I want to be able to get the kind of change that they have, and I want to know what they're doing. And I'll pull up their sheet and I'll be like, look, Ryan's been with me 3.5 years. Look through sheets. He's never missed a week. Or if he has missed a week, it's because he's been on holiday or he's not been well or something, but he's let me know. Yeah.
I was like, his sheets are filled. He never misses his check-in. I was like, that is what has got him this result long term. I was like, it's not some magic diet I've given him. It's not some magic training plan. It's the consistency of showing up every single week. I can bet my bottom dollar, Ryan will check in every single week without fail.
And whether it's good or bad, and I think that's
whether it's good or bad,
thing.
He will check in, and that's it. And then it's just that. It doesn't matter what it is. Like you said, the context is so important, because I had one last week where a particular client for the week, he'd been dropping weight consistently, and then for 1 week he hadn't dropped weight. Now that's not abnormal. That's pretty normal in dieting. Normal, so even when I saw his numbers, I wasn't fucking hell, what's going on there? Why has he not dropped weight? It was kind of like, okay, we've maintained this week. Let's have a... When he messaged me, he'd been let go from his job halfway through the week. He'd recently had just a couple of medical issues, so he hasn't been able to train recently at all until that sorts itself out. He'd been obviously been then stressed from losing his job. He'd not been sleeping right, but he'd maintained. So I was like, well, when you put the context of that and you've actually not gained, he didn't go out and get loads of takeaways. He didn't go out and drink loads. He just maintained. I was like, that's really, really good. I was like, not many people could do that.
Yeah.
Like, it's so important is that context. And that's what the coaching part is for us. It's the context as much as it is the numbers.
Yeah, exactly that. So that's point number 2.
Yeah.
And there's loads of these we could do really, but for me, this is definitely more so for the dieters, and this is something that we see with Blitz, and we see with like we've got another 1-to-1 shoot in July, and like the people who are going to be doing that will be doing this, right? And this is for me, this is something I thought about, and although it can sound a bit boring, and it is to a certain extent, the people who get the best results, and this isn't actually just for dieting, I think this has to carry on after dieting as well, but certainly in a dieting context for today, they adapt and accept to a repetitive nature. So I see so many clients come through the door, and I understand it's like, it's fresh and exciting. Oh, no, so I can actually just eat what I want within these calories. I'm like, yes, in theory, but don't try and be fucking MasterChef every night, right? And I think in the Instagram culture we've got as well, and TikTok culture, whatever, like you can go on and you find these like high protein, low calorie recipes, and people are saving fucking hundreds of them and trying to create different things every single day. Stop. Please, just stop. Like, unless you've got all the time in the world, which most people don't, accept that what you're going to have to do to get in shape and actually maintain that shape for the best part, maybe a bit more freedom and flexibility at the weekends to get a bit more creative. For the best part, you need to be repetitive. You need to eat the same kind of things. You might have 2 breakfasts, 2 lunches, 2 dinners, but you put them on rotation, and you just have to do the same stuff. And I know that sounds boring. People are like, Jay, that sounds a bit lame. I'm like, yeah, okay, fair enough. But actually, you're probably eating the same 2 or 3 things now. They're just the wrong things. So it's about kind of adapting to this, and the people who can just rinse and repeat periodically, like, they will always get the best results.
Yeah, hands down. It's literally as simple as that, isn't it? And it's like with the recipe things, like I'm not adventurous with my food at all. I do literally eat the same thing pretty much day to day, or a variety of the same 2 or 3 meals, like you were saying, just because I can't be bothered. But it's one of those, like, if I was to try and be more adventurous and try more meals, I would be like, right, well, Monday to Friday, I'm going to keep my food the exact same because I'm busy, I've not got much time. Maybe on the weekend where I've got a bit more time, that might be where I'll try one of the recipes and see how it goes. But 9 times out of 10, and I've had it from clients even as much as like within the last week, they've done that and it's taken up half the calories for the morning. And then the rest of the day they've been starving and they've ended up eating more in the evening because they were so hungry. And then it's like, right, now they've got to eat a little bit less for the next few days to make up for it. And it's not worth it.
Yeah.
Not for just like a random recipe to try. But I mean, and you'll have had this the same, like, I've had clients who have recently just gone through like gaining phases, and it's the first ever proper gaining phase where they've stayed relatively lean. They've just consistently built lean muscle, got stronger in the gym. And the main thing they've all said is like, I didn't realize that it was actually just pretty much the exact same as dieting. I'm just eating more of the same foods, and they've got more flexibility. They'll have takeaway every week.
Yeah, if you want to have a social event and stuff like that.
Yeah, and we can just be like, yeah, go and enjoy it. Don't worry about it. But for 90% of the week, everything else, it's just the same stuff. It's just the same. And that's what works.
I know. And like I say, I guarantee if you spoke to anyone who you would class as in like kind of tip-top shape, whatever that might be for you, like I guarantee they'll do this. I promise you. They just will not have all this variety in the diet. It just will not happen. Yeah. So repetitive nature, again, that doesn't just apply to nutrition. It's like knowing when you get into the gym, being repetitive for that, doing your steps, and just accepting that is just what works,
That's it, being repetitive, checking in on time if you've got a coach, or even if it's just yourself, just having a set time every week, just to assess how things are going and see if you need to change it.
Sit down, look at the data and see what...
Which is tough because you get in your own head about it. We all do, like even us now, if we were to coach ourselves and diet down for like a shoot, you do get in your own head and question things, but just showing up is going to make a difference. Yeah. And that's it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just being repetitive and being willing to be there for the long term.
Yeah. I mean, we could go on. There's obviously other things. Like, I think a big one for me is like environment, making sure that your environment's set up for success as well. And when I say that, I don't just mean like what's in your fridge and your cupboards, like speaking to people close to you and stuff, removing that friction, because like I say, all this stuff is really simple in theory, but in practice it's very tough. And often a lot of that is because of like the social situations you're putting in things. So it's just communicating with people, letting people know what you're doing and why you're doing it, and just telling him to get on board. Do you know what I mean? Which is a big one. But yeah, that's a whole other episode in itself.
Rant over. What, we're going to do a physique fuck up?
Yeah,
well, a new section. Should we try it?
Yeah, so this is a new section of the podcast.
And it's basically just going to be, if we...
It doesn't just have to be physique fuck up.
No,
like, no. But yeah.
It's just a catchy title, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's basically, if we come across something that's just
a topic of
discussion, something daft, something stupid, it could be something funny, or it might just be people trying to give out ridiculous advice. We're just going to chat about it and get our reactions to it. And so we've got one actually to kick it off. So we've got Gary Brecker, the famous Brecker Talks Bollocks.
Fucking idiot, this guy.
So yeah, I came across this video. I've just done a reel on it, but see what you think to this.
Okay.
30 grams of protein within 30 minutes of waking, followed by 30 minutes of steady state cardiovascular exercise. Steady state cardio is where your heart rate is at or below 135 beats a minute. You should be able to talk on the phone, read a Kindle. You are not panting, right? As soon as you go hammer down, your body switches sources. It will switch to lean muscle, right? So, unless you have amino acids in your bloodstream. You burn fat at rest. You do not burn fat during exercise.
He's basically chatting his 30, and he's come up with some absolute shite, hasn't he? So, like, one of the things he talks about for dropping body fat is talking to water whilst you stir it.
He's just a fucking idiot.
Yeah, he says something about ice baths. I know you did a video about it.
Yeah, between 3 and 6 minutes, but it has to be between 3 and 6. You can't go 6 minutes, 10 seconds, or 2 minutes, 55. It has to be between 3 and 6. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Do you know, just very quickly, I know we've said about kind of what to look out for, but this is why he has a big fun, because he talks in absolutes. Do you know what I mean? It's you know.
But he has such a platform as well, and he has like celebrity endorsement and all sorts. But so with this, it's the 30-30-30 method, which already sounds fucking stupid. And he basically says within 30 minutes of getting up, this is every single day to drop body fat, you have to have 30 grams of protein followed by 30 minutes of steady state cardio. And there's just so many flaws in that to begin with. Because, I mean, the intermittent fasting community is going to be coming after him because it's within 30 minutes of getting up. So he's going to have to fight them off. But 30 grams of protein, like from what? Because that could be a chicken fillet, or it could be 30 grams of protein from almond butter. There's thousands of calories difference there.
But it also just doesn't fucking matter.
Doesn't matter.
Because you have to say, okay, listen, you know what, right? What I'll say is, if you got up every single morning, within 30 minutes of waking up, you had 30 grams of protein, you did a bit of cardio, and if you had the time for this stuff, like, is it going to be good for you? Like, yeah, probably. Like, it's not going to be bad for you in the slightest. Like, you know, it's going to... But it's all irrelevant in the grand scheme of things, because what happens after that?
Yeah. What about the other 23 hours of the day?
Yeah, like, say you go and fucking... You've done that, so you sound. You're burning fat, right? But then you go and fucking consume a fish and chips for your lunch and a fucking pizza for your dinner, and you go over your calories for the day. It doesn't matter what you do. It's irrelevant.
And with the cardio, there's two problems with the cardio.
First of all, everyone's different.
So he says it has to be at
135.
Well, if you compare, let's say
an athlete.
Like, all right, maybe not us, but let's take an athlete then. Mid-20s, athletic. If you compare that to a 50-year-old asthmatic who's also obese, they're not going to have the same BPM, beats per minute, for steady state cardio. It's going to be completely different.
Completely different.
135
might be a heart attack for someone, whereas for someone else it might be just an absolute breeze.
Completely ridiculous.
You can't compare the two. It's so stupid.
And also, you don't have to do cardio every single day.
You don't need to do cardio at all.
If you've got your nutrition on point, which you won't do if you're taking his advice, you don't need to do cardio every day. Like, I think at most, when I was dieting down for the shoots last year, I think the most I got up to was 2.5 hours a week. Mm-hmm. At absolute most. And that was like the very last thing that we added on. I didn't do cardio for ages in that. Yeah. You need to get your nutrition and steps on point, and then cardio is like the last thing to think about.
I say to all my clients, like, if I was to put things in a hierarchy, nutrition's obviously always number one. Steps would be number two. Gym would then be number three in terms of resistance training. And like the cherry on the ice on the cake, if we've got time and if everything else is dialed in, is cardio.
Yeah, literally that.
No, it don't fucking matter.
So how he rationalises this is that if you do cardio fasted, your body just burns into its muscle stores. Mm-hmm. And then later on in the day, once you've eaten, it builds back all that muscle. So he literally does it on stage. He says, through the day, your body's going up and down in terms of how much muscle it has. And that's his reasoning for doing it. And it's like...
fucking insane.
I've never seen any bodybuilder Ronnie Coleman. I've never seen Ronnie Coleman in an evening looking huge after he's eating all his protein by Gary's rationale, looking class, but then wake up the next morning,
no muscle,
a string bean with no muscle because he's done his cardio without having a steak. Like, it just doesn't happen. It's ridiculous.
And
But
I think, listen, right, if you were to really go into the science, I think if you trained fasted at a very high intensity for a very long period of time, the chances are at some stage you might dig into a little bit of lean muscle tissue, but it's so unlikely for like 99% of people.
so unlikely.
He's just a fucking idiot, isn't he?
But keep talking to your water. Maybe
Yeah.
that'll solve the problem.
Keep talking to your water, doing the 30-30-30 method,
Yeah.
and doing 3 to 6 minutes of ice baths. And there's fucking shit tons more. Like, the guy just comes out with shite every single day. But
I'm sure he'll be a regular feature if this becomes a regular thing we do.
get him on the podcast.
He's he's got a huge platform.
I know, and I know he's classed as like a doctor of some sort or
Some
whatever.
sort of
And I'm
shite.
like, I mean, don't get me wrong, anyone can call themselves a doctor nowadays, but like fucking mental. Like just so, and it's dangerous advice.
Yeah.
Like dangerous advice. But like you say, it's the same with Eddie Abu, same with anyone else. If you speak in absolutes and you say you must do this, you mustn't do that,
With enough
people
confidence.
listen with enough confidence because people are desperate. So unfortunately, vulnerable people who are desperate to make some change will listen to that fucking idiot, and they shouldn't.
100%. And that's it.
That's
I think
it.
That'll do for another one.
Yep.
So thanks for
Thanks for
listening.
listening.
Yeah.
And if you're interested in the next Blitz, holler at you boys.
Yeah, won't be till September, but we'll get you on the wait list for it.
Yeah, because they will. I think this one will sell quick.
Yeah.
There's only really 30 spaces in there, generally speaking. And like I said, with the interest we've had already, it'll sell.
We've already sold about, I think, 10 between us, something like I had 10 people on the list. So
Yeah.
apart from that, I think like the video if you want, or leave a comment.
Subscribe.
Some nice comments
We need
sometimes.
to start fucking saying that.
We do.
Subscribe, do all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Retweet.
Retweet, yeah. I'm not even on Twitter, but
not- it's
go-
not
I
even
won't know you've done it, but go for it.
It's not even Twitter anymore. It's X.
It is, yeah, but there you go.
Rex.
No idea.
Rex.
Exit, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. Right, cool.
See you in the next
See you
one.
in a bit. Bye.